right, geometry, it is lesson 5.1. 5.1. All right, today we're going to talk about some more relationships that we have with triangles. So last chapter we talked about triangles, we talked about proving their congruence and all that. Now today we're going to talk about, and today what we're going to do is we're going to do this as slow as possible here. There are 4 ways, so the overall thing for the next 2 lessons, there's going to be 2 lessons we're going to teach. But they all go to this, 4 ways to prove, or I'm sorry, not to prove, to cut a triangle. Okay, so to cut a triangle. So what's going to happen is we're going to teach, today I'm going to teach you 2 ways, 2 specific things that you're going to do to cut a triangle that give you some relationships. And then tomorrow's lesson will be 2 more ways to cut them, but ultimately all 4 of them will be ways to cut a triangle. So what you have to remember as we kind of teach through this, what have we learned about triangles? What have we learned about angles? What have we learned about different things? What are some specific things we've learned? First off, we've learned that things that are perpendicular. What's something that is perpendicular? Perpendicular means that they form a 90-degree angle. Perpendicular. Okay? All right, forms 90-degree angle, right? What else do we learn about cutting stuff? When we cut something, it's cutting it to be perpendicular. We can cut it in half. If we cut it in half, that's going to be a midpoint, right? Or a bisector, right? So, to cut in half. So these are going to be our ways that we're going to talk about. So today, as we look at a triangle, and we want to figure out a way to cut this triangle, taking a drawing and draw a line and through this point and down. We have some methods. When we do that, there's going to be 2 specific ones we're going to learn today that when you cut them, okay, when you cut these 2, you're going to get a specific point, a special point. And so what we're going to talk about today is 2 specific ones, both that deal with perpendicular, and they both deal with whether it's forming a right angle, and then we'll go from there. So the first one is what we would call a perpendicular bisector. And I'm not going to leave this big here because we're going to, the first way to cut a triangle is a perpendicular bisector. Easy. So in other words, I have a triangle and I draw a line, okay, that goes through and cuts the opposite side in half because it's bisecting and forming a 90-degree angle. So, perpendicular bisector, the definition, forming a 90-degree angle and cuts in half. If you look specifically, they do not start at the vertex. They do not start at vertex. Those lines do not have to start. All the other ones that we're going to talk about have to start at a vertex, but this first one does not. And that's important to understand. So with a perpendicular bisector, it does not have to start at the vertex. So it cuts the opposite side in half, and it forms a 90-degree angle. So when you have 3 of them, when you draw 3 of them, you will get what is called a circumcenter. Circumcenter. All right? So when you draw all 3, the intersecting point is called a circumcenter. Okay? So here are your key words, key things to memorize. Perpendicular bisector is the name. What is the definition? Where does it start or not start? And where do the 3 of them intersect? It is called a circumcenter. Circumcenter. All right? So that's number 1. Number 2, Number two, the second way to cut a triangle that we're going to learn is called an altitude. Altitude. So, and most people, and this is how I remember this, when you have an attitude, you are normally thinking you're right. An attitude, altitude, you're right. So what does the word right mean when we think about geometry? It is not the right answer, it's not the better grade. What it means is it's a 90-degree angle. So altitude, it forms, its definition is, it forms a 90-degree angle. Forms a 90-degree angle. However, it starts at the vertex. And I'll demonstrate this for you. Okay, remember the key. Perpendicular bisector does not have to. Altitude has to. It must start at the vertex. Okay. So, here we go. Draw our triangle. So, starts here, forms a 90-degree angle. Doesn't cut it in half. Forms a 90-degree angle. And this one forms a 90-degree angle. Okay? So notice that they had to start at the vertex. Okay? And form a 90-degree angle. So, where do they meet? It's called an orthocenter. Orthocenter. So, if they meet at the orthocenter, that means they will be what? They will form a right angle to the opposite sides. All right? Okay. Any questions? Anybody have any questions? Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to go out and draw these. So if it's an altitude, it forms a 90-degree angle with the opposite side. If it's a perpendicular bisector, it forms a 90-degree angle with the opposite side, and it cuts it in half. So when you're drawing it, you must make sure that you're trying to be careful about drawing it to be a right triangle, okay? To be across that. And so it's might be a little bit different based on the information you have. That's easy. However, you might need to extend the side. Okay? You might have to extend the side to make it happen. Okay? In order to get it to go across a right triangle. Okay? And so it might intersect outside of the circle. It may have to intersect outside the circle in order for it to happen. So be cautious, be careful, and that will be something that you get to do the privilege of. All right? Thank you.